Hi everyone, I'm Chua from Everything. We're part of the nextgeninfra.io platform with my partner Jim Carroll from Converge Digest. And today we have the privilege of speaking to someone who is in one of the hottest organizations in open source or open standards, as it were, and that's the AI RAN Alliance. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about it this past year in 2024. And I'm going to be talking about one of the movers and shakers behind that initiative, Dr. Wakikawa from SoftBank. So, Ryuji, would you go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Roy, for the introductions. I'm Ryuji. I'm leading the SoftBank research in Japan, and I'm responsible for all the AI RAN development in the SoftBank. Also, we are leading the AI RAN Alliance as a kind of like supporting organization. So I'm going to speak about this AI RAN project and where we are heading to and what our objective of this initiative. So I'm looking for this session.
Thank you, Ryuji, and really appreciate you making the time to be here. So I understand you're one of the main drivers behind the idea and establishment of the AI RAN Alliance. A lot of us are wondering sort of what prompted you to help create the alliance, given that, as we know, there are organizations in the ecosystem, the 3GPP, obviously, ORAN Alliance, the GSMA, Telecom Infra Project, TM Forum, Linux Foundation. I mean, there's a lot of these organizations around. They're all involved in AI and networking. But what was it that, made you decide to say, we really need something like the AI RAN Alliance based on what you were seeing? So maybe you could share some thoughts about that.
Yeah, very good questions. When we started this AI RAN project with NVIDIA back in 2018, 19, AI was not really like boom like today. And we did a lot of development, mostly for the Open RAN implementation on GPU, using the GPU as accelerator. However, when we did a lot of development together with NVIDIA, we realized, AI is not really only for LLM, but AI can be used for radio, for boost the performance. And thanks for the LLM and ChatGPT, AI boom is coming, and more resource investment goes into the AI technology. We believe this is very urgent for mobile industry, how we can adapt AI into our base business, which is a radio and network. And of course, like LLM and operational optimization, this type of AI is necessary, but this is not really specific to the operator. Every enterprise company has to use AI to optimize operations, right? So there's no exception. But for operator perspective, how we capture the AI into the radio technology, this is where we have to do, right? Because this is a very urgent thing. When we look at the AI, the kind of evolution speed of the AI, super fast, super fast. Look at the telecom side, right? 10 years, every 10 years, we have a new generations, starting from the requirement, set the use case, getting the technology. I can't wait. That's why we still believe these existing SDO is so important for us because mobile operation is all about the interoperability, backward compatibility. These are very essential. So we will bring the new technology and to the SDO if necessary for the standardization. But the power of the AI isn't really how to say, we don't need a standardization because we plug the AI into the implementation. Right. It's all about the engineering and the implementation things. So that's why we decided to form the alliance and driving this technology more on the engineering perspective or more on the blueprint implementations, some reference architectures we define. Because thanks for the Open RAN Alliance, is everything on the software today. It's a very low hurdle to design everything by our own. So this AI RAN Alliance is formed more on the engineering driven and providing the blueprint implementation, reference architecture, and doing a lot of development. During the development, if we need to change the spec or we need to define the new category, of course, we will bring to the Open RAN Alliance or 3GPP. We are happy to contribute. But, we want to keep the speed and tractions of Power AI. So this is why like we formed the independent alliance as a ARM alliance early this year, and launching this alliance early this year.
Excellent. Now that makes a lot of sense. I like what you're describing in terms of the focus on speed, the focus on the engineering, focus on for solving the problems hands-on. And you are absolutely right. AI, especially now, the rate of evolution is very fast. Every week there's something relatively new. And you are right that in many of the SDOs that we're all familiar with, the speed is not exactly the same. It's a different time scale. But what I appreciate you saying is as you move forward and realize what the blueprints have to be and the learnings, right? That can feed back into the other organizations, right? Whether 3BP or an alliance and so on. That makes a lot of sense, right? You have this speedboat that's sort of running out ahead and trying to figure out and charting the path. And then once you figure out what it is, you can come back to the mothership or the ocean liner and say, you know what, this is the right path to go. And I like that approach. That's pretty exciting, actually. So speaking of exciting, how did you and the others pull together support from the founding members? I know, it's one thing for you to say, I see a need, I see this, I see this thing out there, but how did you pull together support? How did you decide on the criteria for initial participation? And how did you convince other people, other organizations to join you, right? Given that the vision that you were seeing.
All right. So well, I remember like we had a good like a concept of the alliance, initially with NVIDIA and SoftBank, and we have created the concept and start like thinking like who is the right like partners for driving this journey together. I think the first, what is the objective of this alliance? As I said, like this is engineering focus, so it needs to be like a very strong technical lead. Now, who will be the right like right one like who drive this technology is a vendor, right? So for example, Open Alliance started with the operators and put in the requirement, and then like later the vendor comes in alliance. Right. But this is more vendor driven, so that's why like we start approaching the big vendor, Ericsson, Nokia, Samsung, and also like the platform as a foundation, because the GPU or like server side, both AI and radio. And currently, like a GPU is only implementation, but it's going to be more variety of the platform is available. So we need a software foundation. That's where like we approach the Microsoft, for example, like cloud provider, and also the kind of like revolutions of the chip on AI. So which is kind of like ARM and NVIDIA in a big role here. Because one of the big concepts and the assumptions of this ARM alliance is try to leverage AI technology as much as possible for telecom. We normally reinvent everything just for telecom, but the market is so small, and the investment is way different, right?
Yes.
So why don't we capture the trend of the AI as much as possible and bring it to the telecom? That's the concept. So that's why ARM and NVIDIA are on board, and also academia, because AI is
absolutely
AI for radio is pretty new area. We still need a lot of research. And this is a kind of like, we may produce 1,000 of the PhD students. This is the big like theme for the academia. And that's why like we asked, Northeastern University and the University of Tokyo and try to stimulate more research in academia side. And finally, like we need some kind of like a fresh air. And so, these big companies are also very important, but we need someone who are really driving fast as a startup. So, there's a startup in the alliance, and that's like how we form. And I forgot the two company, which is T-Mo and the SoftBank operators. So we are not coming as MNO. We are trying to be kind of like AI service provider. SoftBank already declared we are the operator, but we want to serve the AI. We want to train the AI. We want to do business more on the AI centric. That's like we have decided, and that's how we communicate to the market. So we are kind of like operator in the alliance, but our position is more on the AI provider, same as the T-Mobile. These are two operators who are very keen into this AI business, and we are kind of like not really like joined as a legacy mobile operator perspective, but more on the AI provider perspective. That's like we formed the founding members of this AI Alliance.
That makes sense. You started explaining as well your interest in participating and driving the initiative at Alliance, right? Not so much as just a mobile operator, right? But as a technology company, as an innovator, right? Driving AI technologies. And generally, obviously, the mobile and the RAN are going to benefit from it, but seems like you're looking beyond that as well as SoftBank. I think that's important, right? Because we always talk about telcos, and sometimes people make up the word techcos, and some people like it, some people don't like the word techco. But I think what it says is that there's a lot of other operators that have, I think it's a mindset problem. It's not so much a technology problem, it's a mindset problem. And the mindset is that we will do it the old way because that's what we know and that's what we're comfortable with. And I think that has to change. We know that has to change. And I like that what you're saying from a SoftBank perspective is not so much about, we are a big mobile operator and we have subscribers and, we want to examine this. It's more like the technology is leading the charge, engineering is leading the charge. We need to drive this. And we recognize that out there, that the vendors actually can help accelerate the function. You're correct. The vendors tend to move faster, generally speaking, than some of the telcos. And we know that, right? Not every telco is the same. Obviously, every telco is different. But by and large, we know that a lot of telcos take a while to move. And some of these vendors move faster. NVIDIA moves at hyperspeed. I mean, it's crazy how fast they move. So I really appreciate seeing them there, right? Because they drive the market. It's very clear. Excellent. Now, speaking of, the way we got connected was through Alex Choi, whom I've known for a long time through multiple companies. So Alex was appointed to head up the AI RAN Alliance as the chair, and we'll be chatting with him soon, obviously. But I wanted to see if you want to say a few words around the hiring of Alex at SoftBank and how that led to the alliance.
Yeah, from the SoftBank perspective, like this AI alliance is so important because, for the transforming whole MNO's business into the more AI centric, we need really like implementations and we need this like a vision implemented somewhat with the product. And, when we think of like this AI run, the foundations of this concept coming from the Open RAN, to be honest. Open the door for software-based base station in actual actual implementation deployment, which is superb. And thanks for 7 years commitment from Alex to the Open RAN Alliance. I was so impressed of his move and activity. And when we look at the future of the AI RAN Alliance, we need strong leaders who can drive this concept and visions into the reality. And that's where I really want to have the Alex on board. And early this year, actually, when I first met him was in Barcelona this year, when we launched AI Online. So we had a kind of a email exchange, but that Barcelona is where I first met him in face-to-face. And that was a breakfast in one day in Barcelona. And during the breakfast, I shared the visions. I tried to convince him to come in the SoftBank to lead this AI Alliance. I was really lucky to have him, and he was really a jumpstart of the initiative. And he also a very engaged in several SDO when he was in Open Alliance chair. I think that one of the missing of the AI Alliance that early this year is we just announced we formed the alliance, but we didn't really coordinate what the relationship is as a SDO, and that's he can help significantly. And we now have a very good a relationship with the other SDO. Where's the position of the AI Alliance? So he's kind of very professional to drive this kind of Open Alliance, and also he invited a lot of player into the alliance as well. So that's I 100% trust him, and with his support, there's going to be big success in the AI alliance in the future.
Yeah, no, I look forward to that. And you're right, he has a unique background that makes him a very, very strong fit for this particular role, given his experience in telco and especially with the RAN Alliance, right? So I couldn't think of someone with a better fit. So excellent. Well, congratulations on hiring him at SoftBank. So speaking of success, as you were saying, if we fast forward, say, maybe 5 years from now, and we look back at the AI RAN Alliance achievement, I know it's still hard, but say we did, right? We look back at it. What factors would you look at to determine if the organization has been successful, right? How would you determine that?
There's a several way to define the success criteria. From the software operator perspective, it's all about the business.
Mm-hmm.
We are not doing this alliance for something technology research. It is for our business transformation, right?
Mm-hmm.
How we operate a business is going to be sustainable and serving the AI maybe at the mobile edge and using the AI to improve the radio to reduce maybe capex and OPEX. So it's all about the business. So I think that after 5 years, if SoftBank or whatever like an operator can be seen as an AI provider and a network provider, then that's like where we are heading to. So business transformation after 5 years. If we see some small change in our legacy operator business, then we win. And the other side is the technology side, right? So I think I need an innovation. We need an innovation. So look at the 4G to 5G migration. 5G technology is firm, but then there's no business like, specific to the 5G. And to be honest, like 4G to 5G, it's all about the millimeters wave, like a new spectrum. It's the OFDMA. I mean, same component. It's a TDD. It's kind of like very similar. So we need some technology breakthrough in the radio. And I think this is an air run alliance can help and kind of like stimulate more innovations in radio segment. And that's like, I'm very hoping in the 5 years, as a vendor, sell the air run product. It's not only the radio, it's also AI. I don't know who is the right vendor who providing this, but we need more technology innovations in 6G. I don't know if this is the right term I mentioned here, but this is the right timing for the discussion on the 6G, and we need strong innovations in towards the 6G. So if Air Run Alliance somewhat contribute, how AI can be applied in radio and for better performance, X, 3X, like a better quality and performance, then like this Air Run Alliance is going to be very important role and in 5 years.
No, thank you. And I like that you started with the business metrics first, or the business outcomes first, and then the technology outcomes. Because I think, with 5G, we went the other way. And that was not the right thing. I mean, at the end of the day, as you point out, right, this is not a research project. This is an engineering project, and it has to have outcomes that drive the business. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it. And I completely agree with you. I like that, the way that you view it. And again, I'm also excited by the possibilities, as you say, right? AI can be applied in so many areas in the RAN and beyond, right? Once you build a platform that you can serve other capabilities as well, potentially. But at the very least, from things like site selection to channel estimation, I mean, across the board, right? I mean, who knows, right? There's a lot more. And I'm sure, and I know the Alliance already has started with all the different working groups, and that's something I'll drill down with Alex on when I talk to him. But definitely, I like the way you're thinking in terms of the business first, and then technology is important. But again, technology needs to allow the business to succeed. That's, I think, a lesson that we all learn. And so I know not everything is perfectly smooth, right? And so what do you see in these early days, right? What are you seeing as the main challenges in these early days? Are there things that worry you or keep you up at night? And then on the other hand, what are the early signs that give you hopes that this organization will in fact find success in 5 years? You look back and like, this was great, this was awesome, I'm so happy. So the both sides, challenges and what gives you hope.
So the challenges, well, I think like we have a very strong vision and concept of the AI run and how we transform the mobile business into more AI centric. So all the assumption is about how the AI comes in our society and how important AI will be in the future. These things are really happening in the AI side. But when we have a communication in AI Alliance, everybody see AI is important, but there are no rush. Well, AI is coming, but we don't know how much revenue we can get from AI and where the operators play a role in the AI business. We are the kind of dumb pipe. we need to change the mindset.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, we do.
And completely on the AI centric. That's like the biggest challenge. As I said in the first question, the speed is matter, right?
Yes.
And we cannot slowing down. So how quickly we understand the power of the AI and make this AI run happen in the mobile network. For example, like one of the concept of AI run is a mobile edge, kind of AI mobile AI edge concept. This is not like the mobile edge has been discussed almost like 10, 15 years in
it
the
has.
operator.
I know. Yeah.
Right? It's a long time, right?
Yeah,
But
long
this
time.
mobile edge is different from like our legacy thing. This is an edge serving the AI. So it's a different thing. But the operator tend to see like this is the same thing we've been discussed for IoT and there's no business, right?
Yeah.
So I think like we need to really like change the mindset and really like we need to accelerate the activity. So that's I think more people comes in the alliance, which is great, right? We need to really like a lot of like a support to drive this project. But more people comes like a more different like a mindset. So I think like we need to really like align in the same direction, same path to the future. This is a challenge, and that's like what we deal with day by day in Alliance. And Alex was a kind of like a super leadership to drive all the Alliance in the right direction. So I think this is a challenge, but we are kind of like deal with it right now.
What gives you hope? What are the signs that you're seeing that say think this could really be big?
So sign, right? It's obvious. Early this year, AI Run is only SoftBank, NVIDIA, ARM, and also founding member talk about the AI Run.
Yeah.
Nowadays, everybody talk about the AI Run. This is a sign, and I was so excited. Everybody start like speak about the AI Run in their language. It's not like a SoftBank concept. Their AI Run. This is so important, right? We try to create the path to the AI Run. But after all, Alliance is not like realizing what the software is planning. We need to really like have this is a Nokia's AI run, Ericsson's AI run. This is how the Samsung's AI run. Their concept of the AI run, same vision, different way to get there, right? This is so exciting because ultimately, operator needs a variety of product to select for the operation. We don't like the monopoly. So we need a variety of the solution. There are several different paths to get the same goal. So I see like that kind of like things are happening, and each organization starts speak about their AI run. This is a great sign, and this is what we are very excited about, like forming some kind of ecosystem and try the multiple different like paths to the vision. So I'm very happy to see these sign in the market today.
Excellent. No, excellent. I would agree with you. I think, AI is one of those technologies that's fundamental and important. And the RAN is a key part of the operator's platform. I mean, look, the RAN consumes, 70, 80% of the power, the cost, whatever it is. And that's the part that reaches sort of everywhere. And to the extent that it can infuse technology in some way, and we, again, AI RAN Alliance will work through with the vendors what way. And I like your point in that, and there may be different flavors, and that's okay. Different flavors, different thinking, different models. That helps the vendors that differentiate, but that helps the operators have choice as well, right? So there's no lock-in, there's no one way to do things, and gives a diversity of potential monetization opportunities as well and applications. So that I think is pretty exciting. And I like that NVIDIA and ARM are part of it, as you point out, in sort of the early days, along with SoftBank, because NVIDIA is setting the pace for AI and GPUs in general, right? AI accelerators. And that's crazy how fast they're going, right? And to the extent that some of that speed, some of that momentum, some of that mindset comes over to the telcos, it doesn't hurt, right? That can only help sort of drive everyone forward. So I like the way that it's coming together. So I appreciate it. Ryuji, I thank you so much. Really appreciate you making the time to speak with me. That this has been an awesome conversation. Definitely learn a lot more about the thinking behind not just the alliance. I mean, we can always read, the press releases and all that, but what I find is really important is to get behind the thinking behind the press releases and the alliance, right? The origin of it. And I think that helps give the audience and everyone a perspective on where you see it going and why it's important. And I think, again, for the telcos, I think this is a critical function. And I'm very hopeful that the AI RAN Alliance will succeed. I'm actually pretty confident that it will, and looking forward to it. So in 5 years when we talk, you're going to look back and it's like, wow, it's amazing, right? So excellent. All right.
Thanks, Roy.
All right. No, thank you, Ryuji. Thank you for making the time. Appreciate it. Thank you.